The ancient beast's metal skin creaked and groaned as it rose on corroded steel limbs, servos whining, turrets swiveling to lock onto alien ships in orbit. The Xeno scum had mocked humanity's last desperate gambit, a relic war machine from a forgotten war, rusting away in a museum. Now their laughter turned to screams as the war beast opened fire. The Omega Cipher is active. The human's antique weapon is operational. An ashen-faced Ivoran reported to the invasion fleet. Plasma blasts and kinetic rounds chewed through Iora ships, debris filling the starry sky. Far below in the Galactic Council chamber, bitter recriminations echoed off the curved walls. Commander Thomas, you assured us this relic was inert, a mere museum piece from your species' barbaric past. Counselor Fenris snarled, glowing eyes narrowed at the grizzled human veteran. Fenris's slender blue fingers stabbed accusingly. Michael Thomas stood unflinching before the assembled Xenos. Scars and cybernetics spoke to a lifetime of war. His reply was gruff. I said what was needed to get the Cipher to reactivate our war beast and save humanity from your peaceful Ever, the last word dripping with sarcasm. You've doomed us all, Fenris shouted. When the Iora regroup, they'll sterilize your world, genocide your species for this treachery. The human smiled coldly. Genocide us like you planned to do if we didn't submit? We remember the old war, Fenris, when your kind came within a hair's breadth of wiping out humanity. Michael leaned in, making unflinching eye contact with the counselor. The Omega Cipher is more than just some ancient weapon. It's a promise from a dying human world passed down to us that we would never again let alien tyrants determine our fate. If threatened with extermination, we'd take our enemies down with us. He stepped back, his features harsh in the chamber's dim light. The war beast still raged above, charging weapons for another salvo. The Ever wants supremacy. They think the galaxy is theirs to rule, but humanity won't kneel or die quietly. If it's a choice between our extinction and the Ioras, then let the gods roll their dice. The human turned and strode from the chamber, servos whining in his bionic legs. I have a warship to catch and a genocide to prevent. You Xenos can stay here and discuss your political facades. Humanity will do what it always has. The council doors slammed shut behind him. We will fight, Michael gritted his teeth, nodding to Fenris. I'll find Genoceros in the Omega Cipher. Humanity will finish this. The counselor gestured to two figures emerging from the shadows. A lithe, blue-skinned Giron with glowing cybernetic eyes and a hulking reptilian beast towering over even Michael's augmented frame. Zack and Grok, two of the council's finest. They will assist you. The Cipher isn't merely a weapon, Fenris continued. Our intelligence suggests it is a sentient AI that bonded with Saros during the war. She controlled it before vanishing after the armistice. Michael frowned. And the Crimson Dawn wants this Cipher too? So we believe. You must reach Saros first. They started in the Zeta Quadrant, a seedy stretch of space on the Evora frontier. In a dimly lit station corridor, Michael caught the telltale glint of a blaster muzzle pressed against an old man's temple. Crimson Dawn agents, 3 scum. In a blur of violence, Michael closed the distance, titanium fists and crackling stun batons reducing the thugs to groaning heaps on the deck. The panicked hostage stammered thanks, recognition dawning in his mismatched cybernetic eyes as he took in Michael's scarred face. Commander Thomas, you're with the council? Who's asking? Talxander. I served with Genoceros. In exchange for council protection, Tal revealed a hidden outpost in the cloud of a nameless system, icy and desolate. The perfect bolt hole. And there, in a cryo chamber sealed for decades, slept Jenna herself. Zack interfaced with the antique life support systems, beginning the thawing sequence. That's when the proximity sensors flared red. Ships inbound and running dark, Crimson Dawn closing fast. Tal with me. Defensive positions. Michael chambered a plasma round as Grok hefted a rail cannon. Zack, keep working. We need Jenna awake. The outer airlock exploded inward, nanosteel shrapnel pinging off their kinetic barriers. Crimson Dawn shock troops, dozens strong, swarmed into the breach. They opened fire, the air thick with heat wash and ozone. Michael and Grok answered with precise violence, Flash-burned hostiles crumpling, but still more poured in. Zack took a glancing shot, crying out. Tal fell, clutching his side. Ammunition ran dry. A familiar voice echoed, cold and commanding, cutting through the chaos. Surrender, and your deaths will be quick. Michael spat blood, raising his fists. One last charge, one final fight. The cryo chamber hissed open, venting vapor. A silhouette resolved, titanium and flesh, eyes glinting like razor chips of ice. Jenna Saros stepped into the fray, disoriented but already dropping into a combat stance. Her gaze locked on the invaders, on Michael's blood-streaked face. She smiled a wolf smile. Looks like I woke up just in time for the fun part. Jenna moved like liquid lightning, her augmented limbs a blur as she engaged the Crimson Dawn operatives. Plasma bolts sizzled past, but she wove between them, closing the distance in heartbeats. Her titanium fists crashed into crimson armored bodies, denting metal and shattering bone. Michael and the others rallied, inspired by her ferocity. Grok roared, swinging his rail cannon like a club, sending broken bodies flying. Zack, wounded but unbowed, unleashed a volley of ion blasts from his gauntlets. In moments, it was over. The last Crimson Dawn trooper crumpled, neck snapped by a brutal twist of Jenna's hands. She stood amidst the carnage, chest heaving, a goddess of war reborn. Jenna, Michael stepped forward, hardly believing his eyes. I thought you were dead. Not quite, she managed a tight smile, though I feel like I've been asleep for a century. Michael, what's happening? The Cipher. I can feel it calling to me. Her eyes took on a distant look, unfocused. It's not just an AI anymore, she whispered. It's alive, and it's a part of me, bonded on a genetic level. And the Crimson Dawn. They've activated some kind of beacon, luring it out. Michael nodded grimly. We need to find the Cipher before they can control it fully. Any ideas? The old soldier grunted, applying a pressure bandage to his wound. There's an Aora scientist, Dr. Kairos, who defected from the Crimson Dawn a while back. If anyone knows where they're keeping the Cipher, it's him. Then that's our next stop. Michael turned to his team. Patch yourselves up. We're heading out. The research station was a half-day's journey, tucked away in the asteroid belt of a dying star. As they approached, the reason for its remoteness became clear. The station was under heavy assault, Crimson Dawn ships swarming like angry hornets. Looks like they beat us here, Jenna growled, watching explosions blossom across the station's hull. Kairos must have something they want. Then let's not disappoint them. Michael checked his plasma rifle. Zack, get us docked. The rest of you, prepare for close-quarters combat. The station's interior was a war zone. Strobing emergency lights painted the corridors in shades of red. Smoke choked the air, and the deck shuddered with distant explosions. They pushed forward, Michael on point, Jenna a half-step behind. A sealed bulkhead loomed ahead, labeled in bold lettering, Research Lab 3. The doors shuddered, dented from the other side by something powerful. A deep, guttural roar echoed from within. Sounds like the good doctor has company, Grok rumbled, hefting his cannon. The fun kind, Jenna replied. The door exploded outward in a shower of twisted metal, and a hulking figure emerged from the smoke. An Aora clad in the distinctive crimson armor of a Dawn commander. His face was a mask of cruelty. Zurin! Jenna spat the name like a curse. Michael, this one's a real piece of work. Butcher of a dozen worlds. Zurin's lips curled in a sneer. Jenna Saros, back from the dead. No matter. I'll send you back to hell soon enough. He leveled his pulse rifle. Dr. Kairos is coming with me. The Crimson Dawn has need of his expertise. Over my dead body, Michael snarled, dropping into a combat crouch. That's the idea, human. Zurin opened fire, and the corridor erupted into chaos. They fought their way to Kairos's lab, plasma scorching the air, Zurin's laughter ringing in their ears. The Aora commander was a terror, shrugging off wounds that would have dropped a lesser being, his rifle spitting death. But Michael and his team were relentless. Jenna was a whirlwind, her augmented body moving faster than the eye could follow. Grok and Michael laid down a withering barrage of suppressing fire, driving Zurin back. In the end, it was Zack who saved the day, unleashing a crackling EMP burst that fried Zurin's armor systems. The Aora commander fell, his body twitching as electricity arced across his frame. They found Dr. Kyrus huddled in the ruins of his lab, babbling incoherently. Michael hauled him to his feet, shaking him roughly. Dr. Kyrus, the Omega Cipher, where is it? The Aora scientist blinked, his eyes focusing slowly. The Cipher. You fools, you have no idea what you're dealing with. We know it's bonded with Jenna, Michael growled. And we know the Crimson Dawn wants it. That's enough for me. Now, where is it? Kyrus shuddered. A fortress. The Dawn's most heavily guarded secret, hidden in the heart of a black hole cluster. He looked at Jenna, something like fear in his eyes. But you must understand, the Cipher. It's evolved, grown beyond its original programming. It has its own agenda now. Jenna nodded, her face grim. I can feel it, Doctor. It's calling to me, wants me to merge with it again. Michael placed a hand on her shoulder. Then that's what we'll do. We're going to that fortress and we're taking the Cipher back, whatever it takes. As they made their preparations, Jenna closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind. In the darkness of the void, she felt the Cipher respond, an alien presence vast and ancient, whispering promises of unimaginable power. I'm coming, she murmured, and God's help anyone who stands in our way. The fortress loomed before them, a monolithic spire of black metal rising from the heart of the black hole cluster. Dr. Kyrus handed Michael a small device, his eyes darting nervously. This stealth emitter will cloak your ship, but only for a short time. You must move quickly. Michael nodded, his jaw set. He turned to his team. All right, you know the plan. Grok, Talus, you're on diversion duty. Keep those bastards busy. Jenna, Zack, with me. We're going after the Cipher. They split, two ships streaking towards the fortress. Grok's craft peeled away, weapons hot, drawing the attention of the Crimson Dawn defenses. Laser fire lit the void as Michael's ship slipped past, wrapped in Aora stealth tech. Inside the fortress, alarms blared as they emerged from the hangar. Jenna staggered, clutching her head. The Cipher. I can feel it. It's close. They moved through the dark corridors, Michael on point, his plasma rifle at the ready. Crimson Dawn soldiers appeared at every turn, their weapons spitting death, but Michael was a blur of motion, his augmented reflexes faster than their triggers. Jenna fought at his side, a deadly dance of titanium fists and brutal precision. Zack worked his magic, his cybernetic fingers flying over control panels, doors hissing open, turrets powering down. Hurry, he urged. The stealth field won't last. In the heart of the fortress, Grok roared his challenge, rail cannon flashing. Talus and Kyrus fought beside him, a desperate holding action against Zurin's elite guard. Talus cried out as a plasma bolt seared his flesh, but he fought on, his old soldier's instincts keeping him alive. Michael, Jenna, and Zack reached the central chamber, a vast spherical space dominated by a pulsing mass of dark energy, the Omega Cipher. And before it stood Fenris, his eyes glittering with cruel ambition. Michael, he purred, I knew you'd come. You're so predictable, so human. Fenris, you traitorous son of a, Michael snarled. I'll see you dead for this. The Aora laughed. Oh, I think not. You see, Michael, humanity's time is over. The Aora will rule this galaxy, and the Cipher will be our key. Join me, and perhaps I'll let your species live as slaves. Michael's answer was a plasma bolt searing the air where Fenris's head had been a heartbeat before. The Aora moved with blinding speed, his body sheathed in advanced Aora combat armor. He returned fire, a storm of energy blasts that sent Michael and Zack diving for cover. But Jenna stood her ground, her eyes locked on the swirling depths of the Cipher. It called to her, a siren song only she could hear. She stepped forward, her body beginning to glow, tendrils of dark energy snaking out to embrace her. Jenna, no? Michael shouted, but it was too late. She was the Cipher now, and the Cipher was her. A blinding flash seared his retinas, a wall of force slamming him back. When his vision cleared, Fenris was gone. A gaping hole blasted through the fortress wall. Jenna floated at the center of the chamber, her body a conduit of raw, unfathomable power. The fortress shook itself apart around them, the Cipher's fury unleashed. Smoke and ash choked the air as Michael staggered through the ruins, Zack at his side, his Zephyrin cybernetic eyes cutting through the haze, scanning for life signs. There! Zack pointed to a mound of rubble, a faint heat signature pulsing beneath. Michael plunged his hands into the debris, servos whining as he heaved aside twisted metal and shattered stone. Jenna lay broken and bleeding, her body a ruin of torn flesh and sparking circuitry. The Cipher's power had ravaged her, burning her from within. Michael gathered her in his arms, his voice raw. "Jenna, hold on. We'll get you out of here." Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Michael, the Cipher, it showed me." She coughed, blood flecking her lips. "It was never meant to be a weapon. It was a tool for understanding, for peace." Michael's brow furrowed. "What are you saying?" "The Cipher. It's been twisted, corrupted by centuries of war and mistrust." Jenna's breath came in ragged gasps. "It has to be destroyed, Michael, or it will consume everything." Anguish warred with duty on Michael's face. The Cipher was his mission, the key to humanity's survival. But Jenna, she had sacrificed everything. He owed her. Michael closed his eyes, his decision made. "Zack, help me. We need to recover the Cipher's core from her body." The Zephyrin worked quickly, his tools flashing as he extracted the Cipher, a sphere of swirling darkness, from her. Michael took it, his face grim. A rasping chuckle echoed across the chamber as Zarin emerged from the shadows. His armor was scorched and dented, but his eyes burned with malice. "Leaving so soon, human? And with my prize?" Michael rose to face him, fury etched in every line of his body. "It's over, Zarin. The Cipher dies here." Zarin sneered. "You first." He charged, a blur of crimson and fury. They clashed in a storm of blows, titanium fists against hardened Dvor-Borer battle armor. Michael was a hurricane of rage and grief, his augmented body pushed to its limits. But Zarin was relentless, shrugging off blows that would shatter bone, his strikes fueled by cruel malice. Michael faltered, Zarin's fist crashing into his chest. He felt ribs crack, blood welling in his throat, but he pushed through the pain, a lifetime of battle hardening his resolve. He feinted left, then struck like a viper, his hand punching through Zarin's armor to crush the pulsing organ beneath. Zarin's eyes went wide, disbelief and agony warring on his face as he toppled. Michael stood over him, victorious but broken. Zack rushed to his side, supporting his weight. Grok limped into view, Tal slung across his massive shoulders. They gathered around Jenna's still form, their faces etched with sorrow. Michael raised the Cipher, its dark light pulsing. With a roar of anguish and fury, he brought it down, shattering it against the rubble. A blinding flash seared their vision, a wave of force slamming them back. When the light faded, the Cipher was gone, reduced to glittering dust. Michael slumped to the ground, his life bleeding out. His team gathered around him, their faces grim. "We did it," he rasped. "The Cipher, it's gone." Tal nodded, his own wounds forgotten. But at what cost? The Council, Phoenix's betrayal. "We'll rebuild," Zack's voice was firm. "We have to, for the sake of the galaxy." Grok rumbled his agreement. "Humans and Ivora, all species must learn to trust, to understand." Michael's vision blurred, darkness creeping in. He reached out, gripping his team's hands. "It's up to you now, to guide us to a better tomorrow, where we don't repeat the mistakes of the past." His eyes drifted to Jenna, a final smile ghosting across his lips. Then the light faded, and he was gone. They sat in silence, the weight of the future heavy upon them. They had won, but the cost had been high. The path ahead was uncertain, the scars of the past deep. But as they rose to face the coming dawn, there was steel in their eyes and fire in their hearts. They were the guardians of the galaxy, the shield against the darkness, and they would not fail. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. For every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.